The Indians take on the Twins game one, and that's going to be a 3:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch in the first of a doubleheader. The Minnesota Twins are minus 120, total 6.5. And if you like the Indians in an upset on the road here, they're plus $1 for some money line cash. Now they're also minus $2 catching the 1.5 on the run line. Tristan McKenzie starting for Cleveland. Joe Ryan for Minnesota. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, please feel free to get yourself a membership at brockpage.com. We're 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on that very same website. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also hitting at 70% in our last 30 Major League Baseball tier package picks on brockpage.com as well. And the good news is we have another Major League Baseball tier package pick going off here tonight. We currently have over 775 members who are signed up and active on that page. And once again, if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website. And once again, that's brockpage.com. Now, Minnesota's Joe Ryan has just a dozen innings of work under his belt with the Twins. And speaking of the last place Twins, they're 18 games below 500, and their pitchers are in the bottom 3 in runs allowed per game. Now, they're taking on a Cleveland squad who's in the top 10 in fewest hits allowed per game on the road. This Cleveland pitching staff is also striking out nearly 9 batters per contest when they travel. Tristan McKenzie has 120 strikeouts thus far in the season, 1.08 whip coming into this game. When it comes to the total in this one, Cleveland's 34-27 to the over in their divisional games. Meanwhile, the Twins are 20-11 to the over against the AL Central at Target Field. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians plus $1 and the over 6.5 in game one. Next matchup, Reds, Pirates, 6:35 East. The Cincinnati Reds are minus 165, totals 8.5. Wade Miley for Cincinnati, Dylan Peters for Pittsburgh. Now, Peters has under 19 innings of work under his belt with Pittsburgh, 0-2 record during that very short span, along with a 1.29 whip. The last place Pirates have the second fewest wins in the National League, and they score fewer runs per contest than any other team in the majors. They're taking on a Reds team who's 39-28 straight up in divisional play. They're also in the top 5 in fewest hits allowed on the road. Wade Miley's 12-5 with a 2.89 ERA and 122 strikeouts. When it comes to the total in this one, the Reds went 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, the Pirates are 36-28 to the over in their divisional ball games themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cincinnati Reds minus 165 and the over 8.5. Next contest, Brewers versus the Tigers, 6:40 p.m. East. Milwaukee is minus 210, totals 9. Freddie Peralta for Milwaukee, Willie Peralta for Detroit. Now, Willie's just 3-3 on the year with a 1.31 whip. The Tigers are 8 games below 500, and they're in the bottom 10 in home scoring. They're taking on a first-place Brewers team who strikes out more batters on the road than any other team in the league. Freddie Peralta is 9-4 with a 2.69 ERA and 172 strikeouts. Now, Freddie's also coming into today's game with a .98 whip. This Milwaukee pitching staff leads the league in fewest road runs allowed. When it comes to the number in this one, Milwaukee's 12-6 to the under in their interleague contests. Meanwhile, Detroit went 11-7 to the under, facing the National League themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers minus 1.5 and the under 9. Next contest, Yankees, Orioles, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Yankees are minus 345, totals 9.5. Garrett Cole for New York, Alex Wells for Baltimore. And as bad as Wells has looked, this is actually an incredibly generous price for a Baltimore team who's cashed in on the run line in 7 out of their last 10 ball games. And as hard as it is to believe, this O's lineup is in the top 10 in home hits per game. They're taking on a Yankees club who dropped 8 out of their last 10 ball games. New York also has a losing record against AL East opponents, and they rank in the bottom 10 in offensive hits. Now, total-wise, the Yankees saw their last 3 straight road games get over the total. Meanwhile, Baltimore is 7-3 to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Baltimore Orioles plus 1.5 and the over 9.5 runs. Next game, Marlins Nationals, 7:05 Eastern start time. Washington is minus 135, totals 8. Eric Fetty for Washington, Jesus Luzardo for Miami. And as much as Luzardo struggled with the Marlins, he's averaging a strikeout an inning with Miami. As a matter of fact, this Marlins pitching staff is in the top 10 in fewest hits allowed, top 10 in fewest walks allowed on the road. They're taking on a Washington club who lost 4 out of their last 5 themselves, and they rank in the bottom 10 in runs allowed per game. Eric Fetty's just 6-9 thus far in the year, 5.31 ERA and a 1.44 WHIP. And when it comes to the total in this one, Washington is, what are they? 19-17 to the over against the NL East at home. Meanwhile, the Marlins went 17-14 to the over in their divisional games on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins plus 1.5 and the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Cubs, Phillies, 7:05 East. Philadelphia is minus 195, totals 9.5. Kyle Gibson for Philadelphia, Adrian Sampson for Chicago. Sampson's thrown just 16 1/3 with Chicago, 0-2 record in that very short span. Chicago's winning just 37% of their ball games when they bat first. They also lead the league in strikeouts at the plate. They're taking on a Phillies club who's 40-31 at Citizens Bank Park this year, and they strike out 9.9 batters a game there. Kyle Gibson's 4-2 with a 3.16 ERA and a 1.19 WHIP with the Phils. When it comes to the number in this one, 3 out of Philadelphia's last 4 home games stayed under the number. Meanwhile, the Cubs went 42-27 to the under when they bat first. I'm going to lean toward the Phillies minus 1.5 and the under 9.5. Next game, Rays, Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern Standard Time. Toronto's minus 130, totals 9. Jose Barrios for Toronto, Drew Rasmussen for Tampa Bay. Despite some good numbers out of Rasmussen, the Rays have actually lost 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they average nearly double-digit strikeouts at the plate on the road. This Rays pitching staff is also in the bottom 3 in road hits allowed. They're taking on a Toronto club who's on a 4-game winning streak, and they also got the W in 15 out of their last 17 ball games. This Blue Jays lineup is in the top 3 in scoring on average per contest. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is leading the majors with 45 home runs, along with 103 RBI. Now, the Slugger's also got himself a 1.018 OPS. Toronto also has Jose Barrios on the mound, who's got a 3.73 ERA with the Jays, along with 36 strikeouts. Now, total-wise, Toronto went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. Tampa Bay 6-1 to the over in their last 7 on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Blue Jays minus 130 in the over 9. The next matchup, Cards, Mets, 7-10 Flushing, Queens. The New York Mets are minus 165, totals 8 flat. Marcus Stroman for New York, Jake Woodford for St. Louis. Now, the Cards are on a 3-game winning streak, 5-1 straight up in their last 6. This Cardinals lineup is, they've also been a really tough out for opposing pitchers. They're in the top 10 in fewest road strikeouts at the plate. Nolan Arenado's hit 31 homers and knocked in 97. The third baseman's currently in the top 10 in the bigs in that RBI category. They're taking on a Mets club who... sorry about that. They're taking on a Mets club who scores fewer runs at home than any other team in baseball. The Mets are averaging just 3.6 runs a game at Citi Field. They also have Marcus Stroman on the mound here today, who comes into this ball game with a 9-12 record. Now, total-wise, New York's 41-21 to the under, against the National League at home. Meanwhile, the Cards saw 7 out of their last 10 ball games stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals plus 1.5 in the under 8 runs. Next ball game, Rockies, Braves, 7:20 p.m. Eastern start time. The Braves are minus 165, totals 9. Tuki Toussaint for Atlanta, John Gray for Colorado. Now, Johnny Gray is just 7-10 on the season, 4.18 ERA and a 1.32 whip. The Rockies are winning just 29% of their road games this year, and they're dead last in road hits. They're taking on a first-place Atlanta club who's won 5 out of their last 7. This Atlanta lineup's also in the top 10 in scoring. Freddie Freeman's hit 30 home runs and knocked in 77. Meanwhile, Ozzie Albies is 10th in the league with 94 RBI. When it comes to the total on this one, Atlanta's 60% to the under in their last 10 ball games. Colorado's 3-1 to the under in their last 4 in the road. I'm going to lean toward the Atlanta Braves minus 165 in the under 9 runs. Next game, Astros Rangers 8:05 East. Houston's minus 220, totals 9. Zach Greinke for the Stros, Jordan Lyles for Texas. Lyles is 8-11 with a 5.43 ERA and a 1.44 whip. The last place Rangers are in the bottom 5 in hits allowed per contest. Meanwhile, at the plate, they're scoring only 3.9 runs a game. I don't know why I'm so sleepy. They're taking on a first-place Houston club who won 5 out of their last 7 themselves and leads the majors in hits. Yuli Gurriel's 3rd in the bigs with a .316 batting average. Meanwhile, Yordan Alvarez has hit 30 home runs and knocked in 94. The Stros also have Zach Greinke on the mound. He's 11-5 with a .366 ERA and a 1.15 whip. Texas is 39-30 to the under at Globe Life Field. Give me Houston minus 1.5 in the under 9 runs. Next game, Angels White Sox, 8:10 p.m. East. Chicago's minus 280, totals 8. Giolito for the Sox, Naughton for Los Angeles. Now, Packy Naughton's got just 14 innings of work with the Angels, 7 walks and a 1.43 whip. The Angels have lost 5 out of their last 7, and they're in the bottom 10 in runs allowed. The first place White Sox on the other side, they're in the top 10 in scoring, top 5 in hits. Jose Abreu's leading the big leagues with 107 RBI. And pitcher Lucas Giolito, he comes into this contest with a .369 ERA and a 1.11 whip. The righty struck out 180 batters. Now, when it comes to the scoring, the Sox went 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with Los Angeles. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago White Sox minus 1.5 in the over 8 runs. Next ball game, A's Royals, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oakland's minus 170, totals 9. Frankie Montas for Oakland, Jackson Kowar for Kansas City. Cowar's 0-3 with a .953 ERA and a 1.88 whip. The Royals have a losing record at Kauffman Stadium, and they're in the bottom 5 in home hits allowed. This Kansas City lineup is also in the bottom 10 in scoring. They're taking on an Oakland team who's led by Matt Olson, who's hit 34 home runs and knocked in 98. The first baseman's in the top 10 in home runs, RBI, and OPS. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, Oakland's walking just 2.6 batters a game. Frankie Montas is 12-9 with a .357 ERA and 181 strikeouts. And when it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Oakland's last 4 road games got over the number. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus 170 in the over 9. Next game, Padres Giants, 9:45 East. San Francisco's minus 170, totals 9. Anthony DeSclafani for the Giants, Jake Arrieta for San Diego. The Pods are on a 4-game losing streak, and they have a 30-38 record on the road. They're taking on a first-place Giants club who's 44 games above 500, and they lead the majors in fewest walks allowed per 9. Anthony DeSclafani's 11-6 with a .333 ERA and a 1.12 whip. The righties also struck out 137 batters. Give me the Giants minus 170 in the under 9. Next game, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, 10:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The LA Dodgers are minus 260, totals 9. Tony Gonsolin for Los Angeles, Luke Weaver for Arizona. Weaver's just 3-4 with a 4.24 ERA. The last place D-backs have the fewest wins in the National League. They find themselves a whopping 50 games below 500. This D-backs pitching staff allows more runs on the road than any other team in baseball. They're taking on a Dodgers club who's 39 games above 500 themselves, and they lead the majors in fewest hits allowed per 9. Tony Gonsolin's got a 2.79 ERA, and he averages over a strikeout an inning. When it comes to the total in this one, LA went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings, 19 and 15 to the under in their divisional home games. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the under 9 runs. With that, guys, now it's time for our next and final ball game. It is going to be Red Sox versus the Mariners, 10:10 p.m. East. The Boston Red Sox are minus 145, totals 8. Nathan Eovaldi for Boston, Tyler Anderson for Seattle. Now, Seattle's lost 4 out of their last 7 ball games, dead last in the majors in hits on average per game. They're taking on a Boston club who's led by Rafael Devers, who has hit 34 home runs and knocked in 103. The Red Sox are in the top 3 in hits on average per game. And they also have Nathan Eovaldi on the mound here today. He's 10-8 with a 3.57 ERA and a 1.15 whip. The righties also struck out 171 batters. And total-wise, the Red Sox went 6-4 to the over in their last 10 outings. Seattle's a staggering 10-0 to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Boston Red Sox minus 145 and the over 8 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on that page. Give me Cleveland plus $1 over 6.5 in game 1. Cincinnati minus 165 over 8.5. Milwaukee minus 1.5 under 9. Baltimore plus 1.5 over 9.5 runs. Miami plus 1.5 over 8. Philadelphia minus 1.5 under 9.5. Toronto minus 130 over 9 runs. St. Louis plus 1.5 under 8. Atlanta minus 165 under 9 runs. Houston minus 1.5 under 9. Chicago White Sox minus 1.5 over 8 runs. Oakland minus 170 over 9. San Francisco minus 170 under 9 runs. LA Dodgers minus 1.5 under 9. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on my brockpage.com website. We're also hitting at 70% in our last 30 Major League Baseball tier package picks on that very same site. I'm going to lean toward the Boston Red Sox minus 145 and the over 8 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout-out of the day. And that goes to Chris Williams, who said the other day, don't forget, NBA and NHL are coming in a month. I love autumn, my birth month, plus all the football, baseball, basketball, hockey, pro, and college that you can choose from. And Chris, I certainly agree with you. And I'm on the same page with you on all of that. I love your enthusiasm. I am on the same page. This is the best time of the year. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today on that website, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of September. And if you do choose to opt in, you're going to get billed again on October 1st. I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.